Good morning and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru, India. This session will run over the next 3 hours, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat section soon. Before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Also, please keep your mics muted during the session. I would now like to welcome Swamy, our speaker for today's session. He is an aspirant software architect and currently works at Applied Information Sciences. He loves to learn about new technologies, but for now, I will hand over to Swamy to begin the session. Over to you.
I was muted. I was talking. Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining. We have a lot of things to cover. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Swamy.
Okay, it says your camera has been disabled. You can no longer share. Okay. But anyways, my screen is visible. That's good for us. Let me take a quick minute to tell them where can they find today's session details. And guys, this is my GitHub profile. Please keep this handy. So all the sessions, future sessions will be, that's my main, but the series which we are doing for Microsoft Reactor will be under this. And all the previous episodes are here. And even labs will be in this folder. So you guys can keep this also handy so that anytime you need, you can go and refer either the instructions or the code. And today's code exclusively will use it from the Microsoft suggested labs. But before that, I want to set the context to understand how things are happening, how things used to happen and how things are happening. So then we will appreciate how the things are being done. Okay, let's take real quick minute to understand this. So today there are mainly 3 labs. So what will be those labs? We'll see that for 1 minute and then we'll go and start. So the first thing is, if you see, is this first lab, which will be on platform as service PaaS on the PaaS offering. I mean, everything will be live. Nothing is pre-created. Everything will do it live together. This one. OK, and the second thing is lab 2 is on Azure Functions processing logic. So that will be the step 2. You can see that this will be. So nothing will be pre-created. Everything will do it from scratch. So if it is failing, it will fail live because of my mistake. OK, so we'll do it together, everything. And similarly, you will see the third one is on storage account, the Blob storage. And again, this will also be the live where we have few containers where we drop it. And here is this access. So we'll see that everything will be live. So now, before going to that piece, I just want to set the context. Now this, we are saying it as platform as a service. So before that, we will go through a painful process. It might be 1 hour. I don't know, but let's see. At least let's spend a decent amount of time to find out how things used to happen. So now I'm setting the context. OK, So what will happen is first we will create, I already created a virtual machine, but I'll tell you the full story where we are going. We will have a virtual machine in Azure and we'll set up an IaaS and we will install a few of those software which are required, which I already did that. And I'll explain. Assume that we are creating now that virtual machine has got IaaS and we will configure a website and we will deploy a web API from Visual Studio 2022 onto that IaaS inside that Azure virtual machine. And then we'll give a connectivity to the SQL server. Give a connectivity to the SQL server, and then we'll access the API and the API will work. And how can we consume that API? So now by doing this exercise, what we are doing is we are showcasing that how can we deploy applications inside an Azure virtual machine that we call it as an IaaS. OK, so infrastructure as a service. So that means only the infrastructure is given. So the application and data we have to deploy and all the patching, enabling the ports, ensuring that the firewalls are having strict rules. Everything is on our responsibility. Then the next thing what we will do is we will deploy the same application onto a app service. So now what happens is then we'll compare what is the advantage of having IaaS infrastructure as a service versus platform as a service. So how much of heavy lifting is being done by the cloud provider and all those people who are behind us thought process and the process. So we'll appreciate those things. And then next thing is we'll deploy a simple hello world Azure function. And then we'll see the progressive things like how much of efforts you need to put in to configure an application in IaaS, and then how much less efforts you need to put in when you want to deploy something on the PaaS. And when it comes to the Azure function, it's still lesser. So we'll see the complete uh, uh, progressive things in all these three things. And then we'll start with Microsoft Lab. OK, so the first thing, without any further delay for today's this thing, I might update this. I might update this also, but understand how are we progressing. We will deploy in infrastructure as a service on virtual machine on IaaS, and then we'll go to PaaS, deploy an application, and then we'll go to functions. So you'll see everything. OK, so let me start the timer so that we'll see how much time it takes. OK, cool then. So the first thing what we will do is we will come here where I do have nothing here in this. So let's first deploy a SQL server. So I do have some scripts here. I'll give the links of this one also. So let me quickly go and deploy this. It's a very simple script. It is there here under that infrastructure thing. So let me go to cd dot and cd infrastructure and cd templates and cd a2. OK, so that's over here. So inside this, I do have four things totally. One is the parameter JSON, one is SQL Server deploy, one is validate, and one is deploy. So if I come in and do an AZ account show, so that shows what is my current subscription, which is the current context. So that's my Microsoft Azure sponsorship. So not now. It might break the demo, so I don't need to take that risk. After that, let me do a quick validate. So that validates our those JSON files are good. Okay. Go to the infrastructure. E3. E2 SQL Server. And let's do a validate of that real quick. So it validates whether both the scripts are good. It doesn't have any problem. So next thing what we will do is we'll deploy that. Okay, we are executing deploy.sh. So what technically it does is let's go and verify the scripts in another VS Code. I'll come in here and come to this infrastructure. It's a very
Swamy, you there? We can't hear you.
now.
Yeah, we can hear you now. I think you lost
Okay,
internet for a
looks like
second.
there
Yeah.
was there was a blip. Looks like they pushed some firmware.
Okay.
Let's wait. It is 2 Mbps. It should be 100 plus. It's catching up. Okay, it will catch up. No problem. I need to reconnect. Looks like. Just give me a minute. Yeah, it's coming. Sometimes this bastion. Okay, never mind. Once again. Let me close this and open a new instance. There you go. Cool. So, Rashmita, is my screen visible?
Yes, Swamy. Screen and
Oh,
your
okay, cool.
slide both are visible.
Thanks. Right. Okay. So let me quickly come back to this one and let's see. Sometimes I think these people push some firmware all of a sudden, which troubles. I mean, it's 150 Mbps and now it's running in 60s and 70s. Never mind. I think that's good enough. Okay, see, this is very simple parameter as well as deploy JSON. All it does is it deploys one SQL server and one database. Okay, so that's, and inside this validate, we just validate both this deploy as well as parameter JSON, as well as in deploy, we do AZ deploy group create, and the mode is incremental. So that's very important. Okay, if it is full, what happens is it's like somewhat like a destructive. When it is incremental, what happens is safely it adds anything whichever is missing. So that's the safest way to do. Now let's come back and check whether it has created the SQL Server and the SQL database, because I think it's quite a few we have kicked in that over here. And he said no. I think it has created. Let's verify that. We can see this one. So we have seen the SQL database as well as the SQL Server. So let's quickly spend 1 minute time here in the SQL Server. Even if I give the connection string to the entire world, people will not be able to connect it because none of the IP address I have enabled, even including my current IP address, whatever is my IP address here, even I'll not be able to connect. How do we know that? Let's go and get into this bookstore DB and go to this query editor, and let's give the uh, password of this one. So what is the password which I have kept it? Let me check that. It was password at the rate $123. So at the rate $123. So even if I key in the correct credentials, it will not allow you. See this 4937 131 41. So the same is being displayed when we go to that SQL server there. Remember, I'll leave it as it is and go to that SQL server, and under the network settings, show network settings. If we scroll down, it shows the same IP. So again, how can you verify is what is my IP address? So when you type that, what is my IP address? So you can see this one here. What is my IP address.com? It goes and it checks the IPv4. So it takes less time, but it will be pretty quick. So see this, the same IP address is being displayed here. So including my IP address, even though I'm the owner of this Azure subscription, even I'll not be able to connect it to that database. It is that safe. Okay, that's point one. Now, the point two is we need to go and connect it to the database. How do we do that? So the first thing what we will do is we'll come in here. We'll take the credentials of this. So notepad. And let's come here real quick. We will deploy the database to this one. So I'll come into this database over here. That's the database project. And we will display. We'll deploy this database, the books database, whatever is being used by our web API. First, let's deploy this to the SQL Server. So other ways which we can do is we can connect it to the SQL Server Object Explorer over here. It will allow us to connect it, or we can use Visual Studio Code, or we can use Azure Data Studio. There are multiple ways to do it, but we will use this mechanism to connect as well as to deploy. So I'll go to properties first, and the first thing is go to the project settings, and here Microsoft Azure SQL Server. So suppose if you want to deploy to your local, you need to set one of these versions, whatever is based on your local settings, which has been deployed on your local software. But as of now, we are deploying to Microsoft Azure SQL database. So let it be. And now we will come to the debug. And inside this debug, we'll click on edit. And once we click on edit, what we can do is you see that we need to give the SQL server name, the FQDN. That's whatever we have just now we have created. So that's the SQL server. This guy is troubling. OK, that's the one, and demo user, and we know the password. We'll key in the password. Before that, I have to delete it. Now come and I'll give the password PASSWORD@123 $. And now I do a test connection. Okay. Okay. So what happened is we discussed it, but I forgot. It's my mistake. I'm sorry for that. So as we discussed, none from this world will be able to connect to this SQL Server, including my own machine or virtual network. But the virtual machine, which is in Azure, which is part of one of the virtual network, we will add. And what we are telling is go and add the virtual network. The virtual network is this. This is my box. So it's validating and it creates a rule. So only the virtual machines which I have deployed within that virtual network will be able to talk. And one of that is this one. There are two virtual machines which I deployed on this network, VNet dev box. So out of that, one of this machine is this one. Now, if we test this one, the connection will be succeeded. So the key thing is we have to whitelist where we have to connect it. OK, that's one important thing. And then we are able to connect. So this is our connection screen. And the next thing what we have to do is we have to set this as a startup project. And then what we have to do is we will click on start. Once we click on start, so what will happen is if we go and verify this, you can see the DAC pack. It creates a DAC pack as well as it creates a SQL Server file also. You see that it's compiling. So let's open this and Rama, mommy. So you see that it creates a DAC pack as well as the SQL Server. Let's wait here. It shows it. So right now it is compiling and the deployment is also started. So then what happened is you can see this one. It is creating the DAC pack and it will create an exclusive SQL file. Let's wait for that SQL file. It gets popped up in a minute or two. But before that, let's wait to see that it's getting created. This is the new SQL Server and new database which we have deployed just now. Someone has unmuted themselves, please. OK, thanks. So you can see that books data store SQL. That's what it has created. So let's go and see into the debug. So that's the one file. If we go and open this file inside the notepad, so you see this entire script, whatever it is going to deploy. So all the script is here. OK, we validated that. And another thing what we can do is to do a quick validation. Everything is deployed. You see that the deployment is succeeded. Let's go to that Object Explorer. And this is the one, isn't it? We created. Let's expand it and expand the database and expand the SQL books, because we can come and validate like this is the one. See the name. It's SQL Bookstore Dev 001 database.windows.net. And what is the database name? SQL DB Books Store Dev. So now we can come into this tables over here and we'll see these tables over here. Right mouse click on that and view data. And you'll see that few of the rows which is already being populated. Okay, so see that Srivaru, Scott Rudy, Krishna Nair, George Reddy, Mithun Nair, Muhammad Hafiz, Nikhil Grover, Jagadish Jolapalli. So these things are already there. Okay, so I will leave this as it is. So the first thing what we did is we used the ARM template to do a SQL Server deployment. That's the first thing we did it. We had parameters as well as deploy JSON. We did a validate.sh as well as deploy.sh. In turn, those two shell scripts are executing the AZ commands. It's not doing anything new. And then we came to the SQL Server and we went to the SQL Server. And inside the SQL Server, we went into the network settings. And inside the network settings, what did we do? We have enabled the virtual network. That means all the virtual machines. If I come to this virtual network, the virtual network, let's go to this subnets. So inside the subnets, there are two subnets. One is for the Bastion, and this is the Azure Bastion. I'm not using RDP, I'm using Azure Bastion. And this is the subnet for the dev boxes. So inside the dev boxes, there are a couple of virtual machines which has been already available. So that's the thing. And we have enabled it. And then we were able to successfully go and update, deploy the SQL to this database. And here we saw that we have a table, we have few stored procedures, and we have the post deployment scripts. So that's the end of the story, part one. So whatever we thought of to do, we deployed the SQL Server because that's very much mandatory for us to do that. OK, so let's take one more minute time to go and speak about something inside this. I think we saw this earlier. I'm not sure, but in the benefit of interest, let's discuss this one more time. So any application, N tier, so you'll have a backend, then you'll have a middle tier, and middle tier itself can be comprised of multiple layers, like you have a database access layer or a repository layer or CQRS or different domain-driven design or different ways you can design it. Onion architecture, different ways it's said. One of the thing is like layered architecture. You have a data access layer, you have business logic layer, you have application core. Either you can have a gRPC or API, and that becomes a middle tier. And when it comes to the front end, you can have the Blazor WASM, Angular JS, React JS, Vue.js, or plain HTML, CSS with fetch and axiom. You can have that. We can have different things. OK, keeping the front end aside, let's focus on the middle tier now. Now we have backend, we deployed that. So I'll minimize this. Now I'll come back to this one. How are we going to deploy that? So the first thing is we will see this one also. We will see this one, but first we will see how do we deploy this. So the next big piece in the big picture is we have to deploy a web API to the virtual machine. OK, let's come to the virtual machine, which I have already created. This is a virtual machine which I have created. And what I'm doing is I want to connect it through the RDP. And then I'm saying that go and save this file. And I am clicking on this. The password requirement was pretty tough, so I had to give a big sentence for that one. OK, let's start this virtual machine. Then we'll discuss few of those things, and then we'll come back. Because to set up the virtual machine with IIS and other softwares, whatever is needed, that itself will take a lot of time, an hour plus. So that is the reason what did I do is I already pre-created that, but I'll explain you step by step what I did, why. OK, so the first thing is this is VM for web app 001. Where is that guy? This is the one. VM for web app 001. I just pre-created it. Let's keep it as it is. We'll come and we'll look at it. First, let's spend 5 minutes time, understand what all the softwares which has been installed, and again go back and validate that one. So I have installed IIS on this one. So I've selected everything. Whether it is needed or not, I just selected it just to ensure that it's not becoming a roadblock somewhere down the line. But when you deploy, you will ensure that whatever the feature you need, you install. You don't need, if you don't need any feature, you will not install. I didn't follow that strict rule. I just did install of everything because that will become a threat. So please ensure that only the features which are needed, you will enable. And the next thing what I did is I installed this Brave browser. We can install anything. I mean, that's my personal choice. I did it. You can install Edge, Chrome, Firefox, whatever is your personal choice. Then I enabled this management service. We'll come and we'll discuss about each and every point, but I just want to give you a quick summary what was done. And why is this 8172 very important? And the next thing is we need to have this .NET hosting, .NET 6 inside that. And we need to have the web deploy. And then we need to have the URL rewrite. OK, so the URL rewrite will help you when you deploy the Blazor WASM. So when you deploy the server side apps, you don't need the URL rewrite. So if you don't have this URL rewrite and you deploy the Blazor WASM on the IIS, it will not work properly. So, and the next thing is we need to need to get into this the IP and give the DNS name. So if you don't enable that 8172 in the IIS, the service management portal, when you try to deploy something and you try to connect it to that virtual machine, what you will see is you will see an error of this kind. It will not allow you to connect it because that management service port is very, very important. You have to enable that. If you don't enable, you can't deploy it through the Visual Studio to that machine. So how do you enable that? So there are two things you need to do. One thing is we'll go to the inbound rules and we'll add that. And another thing also, you need to go into that advanced security in the Windows firewall. You need to write that this 8172. Then only it will allow. It is allowing the traffic from external world inside the virtual machine. But there is a firewall inside the virtual machine also that might block. So I have enabled this one because without enabling this in the advanced firewall, it was troubling me. Then once we go and connect it, it will connect and you will see that the validate connection. So let's see this in action now, step by step. OK, so let's come back over here. We'll come step by step. IIS. Where do you enable this IIS? Because this is Windows 16 or 19. I think it is 16. I will maximize this. I will minimize. Oh, geez. Let me move this to a side. OK, the first thing is you can see this one. This is a server manager. Suppose if you did not find this, what you can do is you can come back to this one and you'll see this server manager here. OK, just click on the server manager and the server manager. Inside the tools, you see this Internet Information Server. So suppose if that is not available, so what do we do is we'll come into this one and then we will add the roles. We will add the roles into this one. OK, add roles and features. OK, and then you begin and role or a feature you want to do that on the current server. And that's where I've selected this IIS and click next, 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 and I deployed that one. That was the first thing I did it. And the next thing I did was to deploy the .NET hosting, this one. So let's see about this here because we have a browser here. So let's see this. It's a good virtual machine. It's not that we don't have the computing power. We do have a good computing power on this one. So let's see this .NET hosting. So you go to this .NET 6 download. And here you can see this. Here is the SDK. Here is the runtime. So here ASP.NET Core runtime enables you to run existing web and server applications. OK, so we need to install this hosting bundle, which includes this .NET runtime and IIS support. So that's the hosting bundle installer. That's what I did it. Suppose if it is runtime .NET desktop, you need to have this one. And if you need only the runtime, you can have this one. But I did this install hosting bundle. OK, now we need to come back to iNet Manager. That's the Internet Information Server. So you click on this. You see all these things are available in this one. We'll come and we'll probe few of those things. As of now, we'll keep it like this. We'll come and we'll, as and when needed, we'll come and we'll see that. OK, so that was the first thing which we installed. So the next thing is we installed this web deploy. So you know that hosting bundle is needed to execute the existing application on the server. So this one, web deploy. So you want to do this publish. This is one of the things. The web deployment tool simplifies the migration, management, and deployment of IIS web server applications and websites. So we do need this one. That software also we installed it. So where do you go and see that? You will go and check in the control panel. Inside this control panel, uninstall programs, you see that the hosting bundle and web deploy, as well as the URL rewrite, IIS URL rewrite. So the next executable which we installed is IIS URL rewrite. What was that? IIS URL rewrite module. See this one. IIS. Yeah, here. IIS URL rewrite 2.0 enables web administrator to create a powerful rules to implement URLs that are easier for users. So this helps. Let's see that once we deploy a Blazor as a map app also, but if time permits, now it's 30 minutes. I'm just keeping a watch on this one because this entire exercise I'm capping it to 1 hour. Even if it is going 10 minutes here and there, that shouldn't be a big deal. But this is very, very important for us to have our fundamentals pretty strong before we get into PaaS deployment. So now we have this one, all is well. So this is the management service where you can see this, the port 8172. I'm going to stop this. OK, I'm going to stop this and I'll keep it here. Let me minimize this and go to this machine. This virtual machine. Let's try deploying something to this one. OK, so it takes 5 to 10 minutes because I'm going to take you through the harder path. I'm not going to take you through the easiest path because let's go through the pain points, understand, then our fundamentals will be more good. So let's come back. Let's come back. Increase volume. Yes. So here, let me go to this web API. First, we need to deploy web API. That's the web API here, right? So I'm rightmost clicking on this. Click on publish. And it's asking me a target. I'm clicking on the target, double clicking on the virtual machine. And it has located my Microsoft Azure sponsorship subscription. And this is the virtual machine on which we want to deploy. OK, so let's go there. And then it's trying to connect to that virtual machine. So it's spinning. So it's not able to connect that because the port 8172, the management service port, that is pretty much needed. See that? It says that could not reach the web deploy endpoint on the specified virtual machine. Because if I come into this, wow, why is this? Come on, go. This guy is stubborn. Then we will go if you don't go. You come and see this virtual machine and in the networking rules, we have already enabled 8172. So technically, if the traffic is coming from outside to from DMZ to this virtual machine, we are enabling it. It's allowed. So who is stopping us? If I come into this over here, this was stopped, isn't it? So now if I start this one, come on, man, go. So it's like a ziddy guy. OK, so now we started this. After starting, again, I'll come back to this virtual. Again, I come back to this virtual machine and I do a back and next. Sometimes it doesn't work. We have to close and we need to start from. Virtual machine. Now see that it validated. So the port 8172 is very, very important. So the port 8172 has been enabled at 3 different places. Guys, please understand. The first one is we punch the hole in the firewall in the inbound rules 8172, point 1. And point 2 is inside this virtual machine. We need to have, if you go to this on the IIS management service, going to that one, ensure that it is enabled. If not, you enable that and apply. And also ensure that 8172 is the port and it should be in the start mode. If it is stopped, you need to start it. OK, And the third important point is you need to come into that advanced firewall rules, because even though you are allowing the traffic to come from DMZ into the virtual machine, there might be a bright chance that it will knock it off here in this firewall rules. So I have enabled that here also. 8172 rule. You can see that the port. Where is that port? Now, this one. The port is 8172. So three different places, the things we need this one. So I'll keep it as it is. So right now we are able to connect. Now the next thing is under the websites, you will have different websites. Now one of the thing is this default website. I right mouse click on this one, come to manage websites and browse. When I do that, I'm able to see that. Now I know the FQDN of this virtual machine. I will go to this. Let me get the FQDN. I go get this FQDN and come in here and http:// I try to connect it. It will not allow, because if you come and see the networking rules here, the networking rules says that the port 3389 for the RDP and 8172 is a management service, and any VNet. So anything which is coming within the virtual network, it allows, and anything from the Azure load balancer, it allows. Anything else is denied. So that is the reason, even though within this virtual machine, we are able to hit the IAS default website, but we are not able to hit it just because we didn't enable the port 80 here. If you want, we can enable the port 80, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to deploy the website. So next thing is we'll come into this virtual machine. We'll come into the virtual machine, and there are different ways people will create it. Some people, they'll create a separate drive and create separate websites, and then they'll start creating it. So my choice is I am creating it here under this www root. Books API. I'm calling it as Books API. I'm just copy this one, come to this websites and click on the sites, right mouse click, add a website and Books API. And what should be the physical path? That's an application pool, and test the settings. So I was able to connect it. OK, now the port is 80 is already there for the default website. OK, I'm connecting at 8081. I'm not having the host name. Again, that's a different ball game. You can have different types of binding, HTTPS or HTTP binding. A lot of things we can do it, but let's do a very simple thing, because our goal is to understand how much efforts is involved if you want to set up something. So this is the first step. OK, the port number is 8081. So the next step is we need to come and add another rule here. The port is 8081. 8081. And I'm allowing all the connections, but this is not how the things will be. But this is just for the demo for Books API. OK. I just clicked on finish. So the Books API has been configured. Next thing is I'm coming in here in the inbound rule, and I'm taking it as here, and I'm calling it as let's leave it, because our goal is not the description. Our goal is the knowledge. So next thing is we have enabled the inbound rule 8081. OK, we have 8081. So all is well. Cross the fingers. So what did we do? Once again, a quick recap. We created a folder in the D drive. We created a folder in the D drive. Let me try minimizing this one so that we can see some of the action. It's a double jeopardy. Okay, that's cool. Let me adjust a little bit. Okay, that's cool. So the first thing, what did we do is we created a folder inside the D drive. And sorry, C drive or under www root. And then we went into this IIS, right mouse click on the sites. We created a website. We gave the physical path and you can come in, check the application pool. And this is the pool. It's integrated. And one application has been hooked into this one. And you can see that right mouse click and click on explore. That means it comes to the same physical folder where nothing has been deployed. All is well. Then we went into that advanced firewall, Windows firewall within the virtual machine. We enabled that port. We allowed the inbound rule as well as we went into that inbound rules for that virtual machine so that the traffic is coming from the DMZ. It allows into the virtual machine. And inside the virtual machine, we ensured that the advanced firewall, it's not stopping us. We enabled that. So that means it will all the way come and hit this port, which we did a binding here. That means any traffic which is coming from the DMZ, it's getting allowed from the inbound rules. And from there within the virtual machine, the advanced rules, we punch the hole there and that comes and hits the browser. As of now, there's nothing in here. Let's, without any further delay, let's come in here. And let's click on finish. It's not over. It's just only 50%. There's another 50% which is there. So after creating that published profile, just click on show all settings and then go back to the connection. Go back to the connection. See this. Why is this 8172, that management portal, the web deploy, it showed us a message. That's very, very important because the Visual Studio connects to that virtual machine on 8172, which is a management service, which is there inside that IIS. We need to enable that and see the site name. It tries to deploy it to the default website, but our intention is not to touch the default website. It should be Books API. So the other thing what we need to do is we need to correct this. Books API. Verify the spelling. I did a spelling mistake. Oh, Jesus. OK, Books API. So the demo user, and I'll key in the password. OK, I said save password and click on validate connection. So now what happens is this Visual Studio inside my virtual machine is going and connecting to that box. And it was able to successfully connect it. I did a next and I did a save. OK, so now the action starts. Now the connectivity has been perfectly established. So let's open up this and then, OK, before doing that, what we can do is we can come in here to ensure that we are not able to connect it on. I mean, there is nothing in here. See that it says forbidden because it is assuming that we are trying to do a directory browsing. So it says that forbidden. OK, and if I have this Books API, so it's unable to find. It's 404. And when I go to the port directly 8081, it is assuming that we are trying to hit and do a directory browsing, which is not allowed. It's part of the hacking. People get into that, right? So let's come back and click on publish. Here the publish starts. Let's click on this output. It is building these layered architecture. I think we discussed in my previous 21 sessions I discussed, so I'm not spending time. And now if you come and see that all the binaries, you see that from this virtual machines, from this Visual Studio 2022, those binaries has been pushed into this virtual machine. That means inside that website, technically it's a website, OK, www root and the website name. And now if I come into this one, come in here and go and hit this. I told you guys, there'll be a lot of issues we'll face it. And at last we will see that uh, 8 to 10 records, and that will be the moment of tears of joy. Okay. Now we will not get it. It throws it. These all part of debugging techniques. How many ways we can do mistakes. So I told you, I'll walk you through the hardest path. You will cry. It's like blood, sweat, and tears. Then we'll see the data. Okay. Now we are giving our blood and sweat. Now tears will start coming. Even after doing all these things, we are not able to see the content. Okay. So how do you investigate? We'll come back to inetpub, and there's something known as logs. Okay, so here you can see that September 24th, the logs are pretty old. Okay. Okay, good. It says that HTTP 500 error. That's what I wanted. So now let's come and check this guy. Let's refresh this. Let's get into this and let's see. Are we getting any clue here? So you can see that the previous one was 403, the forbidden, and the next request was 404. That means not found. What was the endpoint? When we went to the root on 8081, it was 403, forbidden, no directory browsing. When we went into /API books 8081, it was 404 because we didn't deploy at that time. Once we deploy, now when we are hitting, we are getting 500. Oh God, it's like we are getting all the HTTP status code, but not 200. That's good because let's face a lot of problem. Then we'll learn from our mistakes. Okay, let's spend some 2 minutes time here to check. Are we getting any clue here? So I don't want to save this. And I don't want to save this. And let's go to this one to find out, are we going to get any other clue here? IS logs here. Here also no clue. And let's go to the logs here. And failed request tracing, there's nothing in here. So we are clueless, but someone will definitely help us. That is event viewer. Get into this event viewer and Windows logs. And there you go. Tears of joy. So we are seeing that couple of errors. So the first error is Redis cache because we didn't create the Redis cache. It's expected. That will definitely throw error. The second error is this one. It says that a network related or instance specific error. That means what is happening is we are not able to, the server was not found. OK, so that's the first one. The first thing is server was not found because this is our database. Let's come to this connection string. Let's copy this connection string. That means there is some issue in the server connection string. So let's come back over here and go to this inetpub www root. Inside the web API, you see this app settings JSON and open it with the notepad because it was trying to connect to the local database. Now let's give the correct database. And the password should be this is the password. Let's save the password. Come back to the inet manager, right mouse click on that, manage website, restart. So it has restarted. Now again, we'll come back and go and hit this one. Let's see the network tab. OK, It's spinning. We will not get it. Let's not waste the time. Let's directly come back to the event viewer and check, are we getting any other errors? So there is another error. So that's the Redis cache, which is expected. There should be a second error. There you go. Second error. What is that second error? Now this time it says that finds local database. Let me stop and start the website. And let me clear the logs. OK, don't do that in your production server, guys. That will be escalation to the core. I'll guarantee you on that. OK, that will be escalation to the core if you clear the logs, because this is my server. I'm doing anything, whatever I want, but please do not ever do that on your production servers. Okay, that's the warning. And let's wait to the second server. OK, now see this. Now it says that cannot open the server, the SQL server with this login. So the login IP address of this virtual machine is this one, because when we punch the hole in the firewall, what we told is to allow only the connection from that VNet. We didn't give anything, but this virtual machine is not within the VNet. So it's in the separate virtual network. So we have to separately create a rule for this one. So this is VM for web apps. OK, I just added this. It's updating the firewall. Let's come in here. Let's click on this refresh. There you go. Now this is the moment of tears of joy. Right? So now we are able to successfully get that. The other thing is we can come in here. We should see only one error. That's for the Redis cache. That's expected. So only the Redis cache error is coming, but we are getting the content. So now this is what I want to set the context. So let's quickly recap and we'll discuss that. So what did we do that? How? I'll have a glass of water. So we have created a virtual machine and we have installed, set up the IAS and required softwares. And that's there in the documentation as well as we went through in detail on that one. And the next thing is we saw that why this management port 8172 is very important. OK, that will be in IAS as well as in advanced firewall settings as well as in the inbound rule. For me, it was not working if I didn't enable in the advanced firewall setting. The way to enable that. And we stopped it in the IAS and we tried to connect it from the Visual Studio. It was not able to connect it. And the next thing is once we re-enabled it, we were able to connect it. And then we installed the binaries. And the key thing is once you set it up, the very, very important thing is you need to go back and ensure that the correct website is being deployed. So where do you do that? You click on show all settings and go back to the connection. And inside the connection, you give the site name. This site name should exactly match with what you have specified here. If not, it directly goes and deploys on your this website. That will be of no use, right? So you need to ensure that this website name and this website name both are matching. those two website names should be matching, right? And the next thing is key in the password. Either you're saving it or not, but at least you need to validate, ensure that it shows a green tick mark. So that's good. Then what did we do? We deployed it. Once we deployed, we started chasing it. The first issue was inside my app settings, it was pointing to my local database. So it says that it was not able to find. Then we bought the connection string from the SQL Server which we deployed, and we updated it, but still it was not working. Who helped us in that case? The guy who helped us was our friend event viewer. So when we went into the event where it was giving us a clue, like what was happening. So if I come in here, it says initially it said that it was not able to find the local host. And then now it is saying that unable to open this SQL server because the client IP is not allowed, because we didn't enable that in the firewall rules. So then we went and we enabled the firewall rules. OK, that's one side of the story. And now let's cook the second side of the story is how can I use this API? So let's see that side of the story also. Now, this is a web API. I mean, we'll stop it here and then we'll go to the next version, PaaS. Now, till now, whatever we did is infrastructure as a service. OK, but let's spend 5 more minutes. Then we will do a quick recap. Let's go to the PaaS then. Now I'm coming to the web Blazor WASM. We can deploy Blazor WASM also very well. If you guys are interested, we can do that, or we can go to PaaS means we'll go to the PaaS. I'm fine with. I'll check the pulse in 10 minutes. Let me come to this under the app settings. OK, now because this API we are accessing in HTTP. So the web app also we need to access on HTTP, because one is on HTTPS, one is on HTTP. So that HTTP one, if you access on HTTPS, the app in API on HTTP, so it thinks that this is not secure. So it troubles us. So we can come into this launch and what is the port for HTTP? I can check it here. The port is 5281. Dot. Let's go on HTTP. Now both are matching. The web app is HTTP and API is also HTTP. Now let's go and switch on the. Let's go and switch on this. And I will. No. Go to this network tab and click on books. You see that it has come. This is books. And go to the preview. You see this Srivaru, Scott Rudy, Krishna Nair. You see those names. George Reddy, Mithun Nair, Mohammad Hafiz, Nikhil, Grover, Jagadish Julapalli. So, and go to the headers. You see where it is coming from. VM for web app 001 East US. VM for web app 001 East US. So that means the proof is that the Blazor WASM is receiving this content from the web application, which we deployed inside the IaaS on Azure Virtual Machine. So technically it is coming from here. OK, so Another thing we can do real quick is deploy this Blazor WASM and access this also from outside. So let's do a quick pulse check. You guys can put yes or no to anyone want to see this Blazor WASM also deployed as another website and check the full integration. Next, quick two. Other votes, please. 3. I'll wait for 5 votes. 3 votes. 4. 4 votes. 5. Good. Okay. So let's come in here. Let's come in here. So this time you will see full version. So now we'll come back over here and now this we'll call it as Books app. Call it as a Books app. Step 1. And step 2 is we need to come to this IIS website. Right mouse click on this. Add a website. Books app. Right? Check the spelling. Books app. Check this. That's cool. Now previously it was 8081. We'll use 8082. Let's leave as it is. OK, so Books app is running on 8082. Now come to this advanced firewall. Go to the inbound rules and add a new rule for the port 8082. Next. Because I'm opening everything, guys, for Blazor WASM. And in your production environment, you need to ensure that you're tightening the rules. OK, so 8082. So next thing is we need to come to this one. So any problem which is asked. And here 8082. Let's create this rule. And it has created a security rule that should appear here. Let's check that. The rule is appearing. OK, 8021. The rule is appearing. So let's come back to this and go back to this one. OK, we might face some problem. I'm not sure, but let's try. It's good that if you're facing some problem, we'll learn some new things. If you're not facing problem, we'll never learn things. OK, I'll place it here because I want to see the other windows which will help me. OK, cool then. We placed it here. Now let's go back to the virtual machine where I have this application. I will close this. I'll stop this one and close all. And let's do a similar exercise. You need to click on publish. And this is the one. And I need to click on show all settings and go back to the connection. And it's not default website. It will be Books app. Let's check that. Is that the name we have given? Books app. Unnecessarily, it will waste our time if not. OK, it's being connected and we are saving that. And let's do a publish. It is going to take a little bit of time because the Blazor WASM, what happens is this entire website will get downloaded to the client. So the number of files which is getting uploaded will also be too heavy. You can see that it has started it. So I think we might see things are getting flushed out here. It will be a little bit different. We'll see, because it takes a little bit time. It's not that heavy, but takes a little bit time on that. Let's wait on that. Okay. Is it pushing? No, not yet. Let's give it a minute. It's compressing. Okay, adding the file. See that? Started adding the file. The publish was successful. So when I come in to this one, Books API, and Books API, and between this one, you see the structure. So here what is happening is, if you go to this Books API, so the Books API is in the parent folder itself. So even this has got its own web.config somewhere down over here. Let's open this web.config for a minute. OK, you see that it has created. Now understood why we need that module. ASP.NET Core module v2 should exist, that one. And it is like this. And the second one will go and compare that one. Now, if you come to this app, here see the structure. Inside that root folder, it has created www root, and within that it is having all the other things. So now if you open this guy, so here we should see the routing. See that the static content, and also you see that rewrite rules is there. So it says that whenever something comes to this one, it says that go and route it to the www root. So now you understood why do we need to install the URL rewrite. If you don't install the URL rewrite, the Blazor as a maps will not work. That's a key thing. Why do you need it? OK, so now let's locally check whether it works or not. Let's go here. And technically, we don't need to give the full FQDN. It can be localhost because both are within the same things, isn't it? What it says. Yeah, it should be local. It doesn't make sense to go all the way and get the content. Let's see how we have to change. So let's go to the manage website and browse. We are browsing the web API. And this web API, after coming in here, we should say API and books. So it's displaying that. So the URL should be this. So copy that because you don't need to go outside and bring the content. So let's come back over here, and in the www root, you have the production JSON. Let's change it at 2 places. That's one thing. It's the only thing we needed. And the other one is this one. You don't need to go outside. save. So let's come back to this. We'll see, restart whether it is working. If not, we'll stop and start. Come back to this one. Right mouse click. There you go. So you can see that in the network, the call will be to local. See that? OK, call will be local. So now if you come from the external world, if you come to the external world, we can do two things. I mean, you can expose the web API. It's not that only our application is using, multiple people can use it. So let's do that fictitious scenario. Let's assume that team A, team B, and team C, three people are using that. So we need API to be exposed to the external world. And also we have our own Blazor WASM application that is on 8082. OK, so again, I am suspecting this will be troubling us. I'm suspecting. I know that because what happens is, because that's a Blazor WASM. If it goes there, it tries to bring in the content, but it expects the web API to run on localhost. See that? I'll show you. If I come in here, see this books. It is going to this one. So technically, it should be this. Technically, it should be this, but it doesn't work on the local. So local, the thing is that it doesn't work on the local, but it will work outside. So we need it outside. So let's use that. So I'll close this. I will save this one. And let me come back over here and restart the website. Come out of this virtual machine. And do a hard reload. Oh, still it goes to this one. OK, so I think I need to change another one. Where is the production site? Changed it at both the locations. Just to be doubly sure. Restart. .NET Blazor. So we see that a lot of things are coming in, even the C# files. There you go. See that now you see that the books of preserve logs. Books can see that books. It's going this way. But now the problem is if you want to test it within the browser, it might trouble us because what's happening is technically it was able to translate it. OK, it was able to translate it. So if you use local in the server side apps, it is OK because what happens is the code gets executed on IaaS, not on our local machine. But if it is a Blazor WASM, the code gets executed on our local machine, even though it's a C# DLL, it gets executed on our local machine. So let's pause here for 5 minutes to uh, uh, both Kishore. It works both, because I think for the first time it was unable to get the FQDN, but it works perfectly. Okay, so now we understood what did we do here. So we have created a database, we have created IaaS, set up the softwares, we installed the web API, and we faced some challenges wantedly to understand that how can we analyze the things. Some of the times what we used to do is we used to enable the failed request tracing, but our key in IaaS scenario is event viewers. So we need to go and get it from the event viewers. And the next thing is we have created locally we tested this Blazor WASM using the hosted web API. It works. Then we deployed it and we saw that we created a folder and we created a website. We added the folder. Then we punched the hole in the advanced firewall settings in the inbound rule inside the virtual machine, and then in the inbound rule for the virtual machine. So that allows the traffic from DMZ into the virtual machine. But when we enable inside the advanced firewall settings, it allows to the IaaS. We saw that. And then we were able to make it work. I think because when it initially troubled, it was something else, but it's a very good thing, Romel. It's a good practice to deploy VB and web API in the same VM. Is it a good practice? Oh, that's because whatever we are doing is a demo, Romel. Because generally what happens is, I mean, different ways you can do this one. We will create different virtual machines or the different physical machines when we are deploying it. Because if you see this will be deployed in one virtual machine, and this middle tier will be deployed in one virtual machine. And assume that there is a heavy traffic from here, and the middle tier is eating up a lot of CPU. The problem will come when if you go and look into the task manager, and inside the task manager, what will happen is we can see this in this IaaS manager. Some of the times what it will happen is both these applications will start eating the memory. So you can see this IaaS process, different worker processes are getting executed. So one will be for web API and one will be for web app. So when it is a shared space, now here you can see this, we have 3 websites and these 3 websites are sharing. Now, what if the web API is chewing up the CPU and memory? That will impact this one. So technically, it's not a good practice to deploy this one. And another reason is, suppose you're getting heavy traffic on API. The web app is good. For web API, you want to deploy 2 instances. OK, so what we can do is take a smaller virtual machine and deploy 2 instances. And this web API will be a single instance. So those will be 2 smaller instances. So always, I mean, this is what our seniors have taught us, because instead of taking one big large machine and deploying the software, we were taught to have a smaller virtual machine, host the code and do a performance testing, endurance testing to ensure that given a set of hardware, whatever the code which we have written, how many number of concurrent users it supports. So that's the baseline. So based on that, we can compute if business says that they need 1500 concurrent users per minute or per second. Based on that, we can say that, OK, given this hardware, it supports 500 concurrent requests per second. That means I need 3 instances of this web API. And fourth, based on the CPU, if as and when it's bumping up the CPU or memory, it has to auto scale and create a fourth instance. Did I answer your query, Romil? Okay, cool. Any other queries before we go to the step 2? Okay. So let me take a quick 2 minutes break. I will fill the bottle of water and I'll be back. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm back. Okay, now the phase 2. The phase 2 is to deploy one web API. You know that how much efforts are involved. The another thing is here, this is our virtual machine. And inside this virtual machine, we have to deploy all the softwares. That means Windows update. So periodically, it will be our responsibility to go and check the updates. So is there any updates? Is there any security patch? So if you see that, I just created this virtual machine 3 days ago. So I did install few of the security patches. So now this will also be our responsibility. So everything will be our responsibility to ensure that proper software updates are there and ensure that the advanced firewall settings are properly installed. Everything will be our responsibility. OK. So I'll keep this because we need it for some more time. So let's keep this and I'll minimize this because we need it. Hope you guys are enjoying and learning something new. So please type yes if it is and type no if you're not enjoying the sessions. Please don't feel, I mean, I need feedback. So whatever is the feedback, please feel free. Do not hesitate. OK, coming back to the phase 2. Now let's come to this workshop. Now, till now, we spent a lot of time to understand infrastructure as a service and how the deployment was done. Now let's see the books API. How do we deploy the books API? Because the SQL piece is outside, because we didn't deploy any SQL inside the virtual machine. The SQL piece is outside. Let's take this one scenario. The entire scenario also we can take it. Let's see that. Let's do an entire scenario, then we'll understand this one. Let's do web apps. Let's go to this web. Let's take this web app and let's create it. The books web API. OK. App underscore books API 001. OK. This is a website name which you can correlate with this. Guys, see this, the name which you're specifying here, that you can correlate with this. I'll show you. We will dig deeper into that. Just give me 5 minutes more. So let's take this as a Windows and let's go and deploy it in the East US. And I will there was a blip in the power. Hey, are you guys able to hear me? I just want to ensure that there was a power blip. Okay, I'm there. Right. So let me copy this and create a new one. Create it as plan. Okay, I don't need the standard. I will use basic or shared. I don't need standard. That's the dev test scenario. 240 minutes. That should be fine. Fair enough. Okay, so we took that, and in the deployment, we're not touching anything. Continuous deployment is disabled, and under the monitoring, I am not enabling anything because our focus is to understand everything. I mean, the firewalls to do or work with IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, function as a service. That's our main goal. Okay, then we'll see. Rest of the time we'll use the Microsoft Labs because this is very, very important nitty-gritty details. You know, let's click on that. Oh, that's the power. Oh, still have a lot of time. Oh, 99% remaining. The screen is becoming dim. There's no power. Okay, this should be fine. Shouldn't trouble us. Okay, there you go. It deployed. Let's come back to this one. Let's go to this. And we see here we have the plan. So first thing is I want to speak something on this plan. Let's come and see this plan. So what it is saying right now, it says that the shared infrastructure, and it says that it is allocating as 1 GB of memory and some CPU. I mean, it will be good if I discuss this here. Let's assume that it says that total ACUs is 100 and it is giving us 1.75 GB of memory and A series compute. Now let's come back to this one. And let's go to this size over here. And you can see that there'll be definitely an A series somewhere here, other sizes. Or I don't know whether it's not there. Okay, if not A series, we can check some other series. S series or whatever it series, it says that. So when you select that Azure Compute Unit, ACU, Azure Compute Unit, and it says that it's going to give us 50 GB space of storage and some units of memory. When you compare this with here, with the virtual machines. So now what is happening is here it says that, okay, I'm giving you 1 vCPU and 3.5 GB of RAM and 4 hard disks with an IOPS input output operations of 3 and 3200. So some temporary storage. So whether it supports premium storage or not, that's a different ball game. We'll come back to the infrastructure as a service in the lab 2 or a workshop 2, but this is first 3 labs. So let's focus on this one. So when it comes to the platform as service, what it is promising is it's going to give you some capacity of compute. Maybe the compute units or the RAM or the hard disk. If you see that in the P2, P1 V2, it says a 3.5 GB of memory. Here you can see that here you're getting 3.5. Does that mean that it is giving us DS1 V2? We don't know. At least I don't know. The thing is that, but is guaranteeing that it is going to give us this much of computing power. That is very, very important to understand. That's point one on that one. And the point two is when you create an app service plan, and each of the app service plan will have uh, so much of compute. You can share this between number of apps. At this point of time, this app service plan is having only one application, that is Books API. Now let's come and check this Books API. Where is this Books API? Here is that. Now if you come and see this Books API, you have this over here. And we'll come back and check this configurations and other things. Just let's hold it for a minute. Let's come back and go back to this, close the solution and open this web API. Close all tabs and let's publish this. Now this time we need to publish to a web API, not to the virtual machine. Okay, we are saying that to Azure, not to this virtual machine, to an app service. And it's searching the app service, and within our workshop 1, we have created this. And it's clicking on next. And we don't have the API M. And we can do the GitHub actions or with the publish. Let's go with the publish settings as of now. So we keep this GitHub actions that got the power back. I'm a little worried when the power is going and coming. It's not impacting our this thing. OK, now you can click on this all show all settings. And again, you can check this one here. Make a note of one difference. When we were deploying to the virtual machine, the port on which it connects was 8172. But when it is deploying to that web app service, it is on HTTPS. That's the server name. And this is the site name. OK, I told that whatever the site name which we are giving, assume that that is this website. So here is a proof that it is that. OK, username and some password, and you can click on validate connection. This is the same thing we have validated when we were deploying to a IaaS virtual machine. OK, and let's leave it there. Let's not probe anything more than that. But those are the key fundamental things we need to know, that what is the difference, what it involves to deploy onto IaaS and what it involves if you want to deploy something to the PaaS. OK, the publish is succeeded. And we will do a lot of probing. We are not going to stop here. We'll do a lot of probing here because we thought of to get to the bottom of this. We'll definitely get to the bottom of this. Well, deployed. OK, now again, we will go through the same painful process to understand. Hooks. Initially it said 404. Understand the HTTP status codes, whatever we are receiving. We went through the same path when we were deploying in infrastructure as a service. Now this time we'll see the status code, but we'll go and fix that issue because we know that what is happening, and then we'll do a little bit of diff. Now we'll get 500 for sure. Want to wait and watch? We can. I think in the interest of time, we can go 3, 2, 1, 0. It's 500. Good that we got it. I'm very happy. Now, how do we know that? We have to come to app service logs and switch on the application logs, anything from warning. OK, we can web server logs, the other logs also detail error messages, failed request tracing. We can do all this other logging also. We can have the other kinds of logging, and we'll come back to this one log stream over here. Come back to this. Let's go here. And let's watch. So see that logs, it started and it's spinning. It will take 1 or 2 minutes, but we'll get those logs. That's very important. How do you investigate that? So this Redis cache, I know that I told we don't have Redis cache. We'll introduce in the future workshop, but this workshop, let's spend time on these two things very much. So IaaS, PaaS, and function as service. OK, from Redis cache, it's going and trying to contact the this one. See that it has spit a similar error. You see that an unaltered exception to it's not able to connect. So it's unable to connect, unable to locate a local database. The same issue, whatever we faced it. So we know that we can come back over here and go grab the connection string from the books API. OK, this is the connection string. It is data store settings and this one. So for the benefit of time, I will copy that to outside world. I'll paste it here. And how should we have it? That's also very important. OK, so you need to come back to the app settings. So in the meanwhile, I will show that how to do it. This __ SQL connection string, and its value should be this entire thing. And again, in future, we'll come and move this connection string to Azure keyword. This is a temporary solution. So now if you come back to this one, there are multiple ways to do. I will show that one also. So let's come back to this one, console. When we come back to this console, see site dub root. And inside the dub root, it's installing this. OK, now cd ... So here you can see that you're getting this diagnostics logs. All these things are here. So inside this dub root, it is directly deploying. So this you can compare with this folder. So technically, if you see this it's acting as a site and dub root, and inside that it is there. Okay, all these things. So you can compare the same set of files. You can see here the app settings JSON, Azure Core DLL, Azure Identity DLL. So all these things, whatever we have it, it has got all these things here. So that's where everything gets stored. That's one point. And inside this, I can do cat of app settings. Cat of app settings JSON, it's here. Another thing what we can do is we can go to this app settings editor. I'm showing multiple ways, guys. We can come in to this app settings editor because these all things is what's happening under the hood. You might not have permission. Definitely you will not have permission. Only till dev people might give you permission, but some teams, they don't even give you permission till here. I'm just giving you a lot of extra information so that you know that where to go and hunt it. So we can modify it here. OK, so multiple ways. You can do it in the console, or you can do in advanced tools, or you can do it in this one. We will take a different approach. We will come to this configuration. And inside this configuration, we have to create a app settings. We have to create a app settings. And the app settings names should be like this. Why it should be, we will probe that in a minute. And it's like this. And just click on save. OK, so now coming back to so configuration and app settings. If you search for _, this one, colon with _. So what happens is when you have this settings of this kind. So when you create it, you need to create it with _. So that's how it recognizes. So this is connection string colon web server west server. But when you put it inside the configuration, it should be connection strings __ west server. So that's what we are creating it here. See this configuration over here. What did we create? Data store settings __ SQL Server connection string, and its value we have specified. Now let's come and check that. Is it giving us the content? What do you think? Will it give it or not? Polling. It will not, because the IP address. The IP address of this is not punched in that. Again, we are getting the 500. Now, if you come in, check here. Let's clear this logs. Sometimes what will happen is, even though I don't know, it might be happening for me, but even though I update the connections, technically it should restart. Sometimes in the interest of time, I just stop and start. It doesn't harm. I mean, when you're doing it in production, please ensure that you're not doing these kind of misadventures. It's my subscription. I'm restarting and clearing the logs as and when I need it. But when you're doing it in production, please guys ensure that you're doing proper due diligence. So let's try this one more time. So now what will happen is it will give us the clue here itself. So the logs are enabled. Let's see that. Let it flush the logs here. There you go. So now again it sees, see that it says that unhandled exception throws in the SQL client. What it is saying that someone to this, we saw that when we did it from the infrastructure as a code from this virtual machine, when we tried, we saw similar error in the event viewer. Now we see here in the log stream. So what is the IP address? IP address is this IP address. Now copy that IP address, come back to the SQL Server and add another firewall rule. And what's the name of this web API? Let's use that. So we know that. Why did we add this? There you go. Now, tears of joy. Drum rolls, please. OK, now I understood. So I'm taking you through the hardest part, so you will learn these things. OK, that's one thing. Now I need to give you a few other tips. These are under the hoods. I mean, you will not know, but I want to give those details. OK, what is the other piece of information which I wanted to give? Did I forget this? What was that? This content is coming. What was that? I forgot. OK, right. I got it. I got it. One more thing. Now, coming back to this one, let's go back to this console. And in this console, if you type host name, when you type host name, it shows some machine name, web WK000. And if you come to this virtual machine and go to the terminal, so it gives this virtual machine. So that means this website, even though the app service which we created is being hosted inside some virtual machine. So that means with this, what you understand is the home site www root. That means it is similar to this, what we created it here. As I told, you can like see inetpub www root books web API. So here you can compare the www root, but this entire path. So on some virtual machine, there is a physical folder it has been created and that's being mapped to one of the application. How do you know that? You can come to this configuration. We saw that when you did a host name, it is giving some virtual machine name. That means it's being some compute is there, maybe Docker container or a virtual machine or a physical machine. I don't know, but there is some machine behind that. And you can check this path settings over here. If you have any of those handlers and this, you can see this, the virtual path is that and the site www root. So this is being mapped to our application, right? and what all the default documents it supports, it's here, and what are the general settings, stack, and what is the platform, and the managed pipeline and HTTP versions. We can play around with this a lot. Now, when you do a comparison, you have done a lot of efforts to deploy an application on an IaaS. But when it comes to PaaS, all you're saying is you created a app service plan, and you are able to deploy. But see that creating a folder, mapping it to a website, and opening up the ports, and everything is being taken care by the cloud provider. Now you understand, and you will appreciate the heavy lifting which is being done by Azure and all the people who are involved behind this platform as a service, isn't it? Now you saw all the things, whatever you did it, and now you're seeing this one. Now I want to show you something else, which is very, very critical. Let's go to this Kudu console. Let's get into that. Now here we have seen the event viewers, isn't it? We saw that event viewers. So I'll show you where to get this event viewer. You'll come in here. This is keys of the kingdom, guys. I'm just giving you an extra information. You might not get access to this. Please be very careful on that, right? So now let's go to Debug Console. Now you see this, the site is here and www root is here. And here you have this one. And I told if you want, you can come click on this and you can modify this one. But you have created in the configuration, you don't need it. Now let's go back over here. And here you can see this data. And here you see this log files. And here you saw this W3 SPC. Now you can compare that with these two WCs inside the inet pub, inside that logs in this one that you can compare with this logs, and you see this event log. And if you go deep down somewhere here, you saw that the same error. Initially, it says that the local host was not found, and then we fixed that. And the next time what it says, is it didn't have this IP enabled. It has got that. So this cannot open. So initially it was not able to find the localhost. And the second issue, the same two issues we replicated here on the IaaS, infrastructure as a code on virtual machine. Now you're seeing the same thing here. So here you have this, the event viewer, where you go and track it. So whatever is there in this event viewer, you will get it inside the Kudu console here in this file, event.xml. So these are some of the deep debugging techniques which I use it. And apart from that, if you go to that environment, you can see that. See that app settings, data store, and this one. And here is where you can get the database name, the connection string. Let's go back to the top. See that under app settings, data store settings, and here under environment variables, it is creating this environment variables. It's there under environment variables. It's there. And few other things which you can get is app settings, connection string, environment variables. You will have the server variables. Everything, whatever you have on IaaS, you have the same thing over here. But this is like a keys of the kingdom, folks. And we can get the logs also here. The site extensions. Now, or you can install the site extensions, but I am not going to do that. One thing what we can do is we can do this profiling, like what is the processes. We are seeing that. So this is running. Suppose if you have another website which is running, it will be shown here. And you can do like a command or PowerShell guy, whoever you are, you can come into this and you can get into the site and dub root, and here you have that one. So this app settings you can come and modify, but please don't touch it. But I just wanted to give you an deep extra information. OK, so again, a pulse check. So do you want to deploy Blazor WASM and see that end to end in app settings also? Then in app service, then you will be able to compare how do you deploy a entire app on infrastructure as a service versus how do you deploy entire app on the platform as service. Pulse check. Do you want to go ahead and let's deploy Blazor WASM in app service before going to functions? Need a pulse check, folks. Cool. Kanishka, Binit, Pramod. 2 more roads. Pramod, Nathan. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Three votes. Ashwin, Kumar, Pradhan, Iqbal, Romil, 4 votes. I need one more. Ramesh Babu, Pragnya Sahu. Cool. 6 votes. We won. Chalo. Let's do that. So next thing is, let's come back to this one. I will close all these things and let's go back to this. And again, let's create a quick web. What's the name we used it? Okay, that's the name we used it. We call it as web instead of API. The only thing we'll change is web. That's the difference. We'll use it. So let's come back to the web. And oh God. First we call it as a web. Okay, so let's go and deploy this East US. And let's create a new one. Let's call it as a plan. And you can see that when you select any of this app service, one thing you have to focus is as and when you select these app service plans, you are getting the features. OK, so let's see if I go to dev test, if I take free. So what I'm getting 1 GB of memory and 60 minutes per day. If I select shared, you see that the custom domains is not there for free. But if I select shared, it's going to give us the custom domains as well as these two. If I select B1, so it's going to give custom domains, SSL, manual scale. So I can manually scale up to 3 instances. But when we come to production scenarios, so standard, it's giving 1.5 GB and total Azure compute units. And see this facilities, you're getting custom domain, SSL, and auto scale up to 10 instances, and staging slots 5, daily backups, traffic manager, storage, memory, and compute units. So again, you see the difference here. You're paying 5,000 change, and here you're paying 3,000, around 4,000. The difference is 1,000, but you're getting a lot of facilities between B1 and S1. You see that between B1 and S1, you're getting a lot of facilities. So choose wisely, but to do test, as I was mentioning, always test it on a smaller compute power. So that knows that what is that our code can support, and that we can make it as a baseline. And then if you want to do any performance improvement, you can do it on top of that. Never ever take a bigger one and start creating it. Always go slow. OK, so let's do a review and create. Because this is very fundamental and foundational before we start our workshops and labs, folks. You know, without this understanding, we go directly deploy something and dust our hands saying that, hey, we deployed this. But what is happening under the hoods? Why is that port enabled? Why is this event viewers making a note of that? How can I get it in IaaS, infrastructure as a service? How can I get the event viewers in platform as a service? So we did probe deep into the weeds to know the nitty-gritties of all these things. Now come back. This one. Now that's web. Let's come back over here. We know that web works. I'll close this browser. And let's do the local testing as we did it there. Let's get this web. And let's go to this app settings. And OK, let's test it locally. And then we'll come back and check one more item. There you go. Without any issue, we were able to make it like a cakewalk. Come back to this network, go to the counter. Come here, you see the books, and then you go, you see that it's coming from app books API 011 Azure websites. That means it is coming from our app service. OK, we are able to successfully test this. And the next important thing what we have to understand is this is going on HTTPS. Why? Let's do a little bit of probing, not too very deep, but at least a little bit of probing. So when you go and deploy any of these websites, web app service, so what will happen is a wildcard certificates will be attached to us. That means if you see that in the virtual machine, in the site settings, we don't have that certificates, SSL certificate, we didn't bind it to that. But whereas here, if you come in here, the connection is secure and the certificate is valid. And you can see that there's a wildcard star.azurewebsites.net. So abc.azurewebsite.net or xyz azurewebsite.net. You do it anything.azurewebsite.net that has got a SSL certificate bound to it. And you can see the details and the root certificate. It's being given by DigiCert to this TLS issuing authority. And this is the wildcard certificate. So that's the reason when we use the app service, we can go on HTTPS because it has got a SSL cert. And here we can again do a deep dive into that, configure everything to our virtual machine also. No one is going to stop us, but the thing is that it needs extra efforts. We are not doing, that's the reason. Okay, that is one thing which I wanted to highlight. After doing that, let's come back. This is working. Let's come back over here and I'll close this and let's do this one. Let's do this publish and let's do a new publish because we want on the app service. This is web. After this, we'll do one more demo. Then we can go on Q&A. We'll speak to each other. I might not be able to answer all the queries, but I'll do my level best to answer. Okay, just come and validate. And here, these details we saw quite a few times. And let's do a save and do a publish. And as I was mentioning, it takes a little bit of time. Is it happening a little faster? No, I don't know. OK, it's adding. Wow, that was pretty fast. See that? And extension is in progress. It's restarting the web app. There you go. It started this web app. And quickly open up. Now let's go to this books. Ooh. Oh, that's the prod. This one. I forgot to update this. It's my mistake. I'm sorry for that. Let's do another deploy. Again, guys, we can do multiple ways. We can go into the app service editor and modify it. Better we'll do it from here. And maybe in the 5th, I planned it 4. I think 4 workshops are not enough. Seeing the level of detail we are going, I will increase 1 or 2 workshops more where we do lots of hands-on, which will help you folks understand things better. Now you see that without any issue, we were able to crack it here. I'll come in here and I'm coming in here. You see that you're going it. I will do one thing. I'll come to my this one. This is from the virtual machine. And this is see one thing when you go to the network tab. Because this is the first time we are accessing this. See all. It's downloading all the things. See that? There's no difference between except that HTTP. I told why. We didn't find it. But apart from that, we were able to go and access this at both the places from the virtual machine and from the app service. Now, let's take quick 5 minutes before we do one more experiment. Is that now? Used for debugging. OK, I'll take queries little later. I have one more thing to showcase. Then we will go ahead with the Q&A. So now we did deploy the 3-tier app because SQL is outside, but keeping the SQL piece outside, we deployed the same thing in infrastructure as a code as well as the platform as a infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Now we did a lot of experiments. We did a lot of mistakes to know and to dig deep into the weeds to find out what is happening under the woods. OK, hope you guys are enjoying till now. Give me yes, or someone doesn't enjoy, please give me no. I'm fine. Please feel free. OK, so I really like if someone says they're not enjoying. I mean, the feedback is very important for me to improvise or improve the content. OK, thank you so much. So now that we understood what is infrastructure as a service, what is involved to deploy, and a little bit of debugging techniques and all those things. And then when it comes to the platform as service, we know that we have created the same 3-tier app, we deployed it, and we did a little bit deeper into the weeds to find out some of the best practices, some of the debugging techniques, some of the places where to go and search. And we learned what is happening under the hoods. Now, infrastructure as a service, you know that you are selecting the compute and a lot of things are on your shoulders to do it. When it goes to the platform as service, they are saying that, OK, I'm going to give you some compute, X compute, because you have to pay Y number of bugs. I'm going to give you X units of compute. So a lot of things you're not getting a handle on the virtual machine where it is getting deployed. How do you know it's a virtual machine or a machine? Because when we did a host name, it gives some name. We did that comparison also. Like, OK, that means even though you do a platform as a service, there's a lot of work which is being done behind the scene to go and deploy. OK, now we'll see the third flavor. Then we'll do the first workshop. OK, I thought that without giving this information, we going ahead and doing the labs will not be fruitful. Because at least now you guys know that if someone says that what is infrastructure as a service and they're deploying their apps, means definitely you can at least correlate few of the things and you will be able to correlate that. Oh, OK, this is what is happening behind the scene. If someone says that I deployed something using PaaS, you know that, OK, this is PaaS. And we saw that we took almost 1 hour, 2 hours, 16 minutes to understand these two pieces. Let's understand the third piece. Then we will do the first lab. I'm going to increase the workshop, not going to stop with 4, but I want a lot of knowledge to be flown. Let's see the third flavor. Is my screen is still shared? Yeah, it is still shared. So we saw infrastructure as a code. We saw, sorry, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, now function as a service. And then we will do a final experiment. Let's come back to here. Now let's create here. We'll create a Azure function. Okay, function app. We'll select a function app. And I'm calling it as Func demo. I mean, we'll come and we'll do a deep dive into functions, but I just want to touch upon few things now because I want the fundamentals to be very strong. I mean, I'm doing my level best to give you guys that. I might not cover everything, but I'm doing my level best to give as far as I know. I'm giving you all this information. So you see that all you're telling is, hey, I want to deploy something which is of .NET 6 and its region is this. I'm not going to speak anything else. I can create the functions premium, app service plan. An app service plan means again it is becoming the PaaS service. It's not serverless. See that, guys. Out of 3 plan options, the first one is called consumption based plan. So that is serverless. That means if you're using service bus queue, you're dropping messages. So our code is executing. So all of a sudden you drop 20 messages. So it automatically scales and then computes everything. And once the computation is done, it automatically shrinks. So this we will see a little later, but as of now, let's take the consumption plan and then we will do a comparison. Let's come to the hosting and that's a storage account. Yeah, let's take this. I think this guy Sabziwala is not going to leave us now for next 5 to 10 minutes. You guys have to bear in. Deployment, we are not enabling any of this deployment. Now we're creating that. Let's deploy. Then we will go and again we'll probe it. What is happening under the hoods? And I think I have mentioned that you can get into the operation details to find out what is that operation. Provisioning, create, succeeded, what is the state, how many seconds it took. So if you come into this and get into the operation details of this one, so you see that it took 9 seconds to create this server forms. And here, if you see that storage account, it took how many seconds? 30 seconds. And you can come into this one. Yeah. And in the deployment details, you can come and check all these things like Func demo so that it's creating a website. So again, you see that there is something going on behind the scenes. It's creating a website, but it's not telling us what is the compute here, right? So if you compare with infrastructure as a service, we know that what is our virtual machine and what is our IaaS version and how we are creating the folder structure, how we are mapping that to the websites and what kind of softwares we are installing. We know that full control we have it. When it goes to the PaaS, it says that I'm giving you some compute power. And all we need to worry only about the application, nothing else, and the configuration. And when it comes to the serverless model, we are not even having clue about what is the compute power. Nowhere it says that I'm giving you 1 GB RAM and 10 GB hard disk or 50 Azure compute units. It's not telling, but it says that something you can observe that there is a server form and website. We can probe into that one also, but at least from this perspective, if I go, yeah, this is one of the web, isn't it? Let's get into this deployment and let's get into the deployment details. You see that the server forms and website, and you can again go. This is the API, I think. Oh, I think we have created API also, isn't it? Yeah, we created API. I don't know whether here or not, but net what is important is when we create either the web app or web API, it has created the server form where you can see that in the operation details, what is it creating? It is creating that particular resource. It took 9 seconds. And the next thing is it has created the website, and the website is named whatever it is named, the resource ID and the resource name, whatever it is. And when we go to the serverless model, and that was this Azure function. And when you go to this deployment details, you can see that it is creating the same server form. OK, so that's the app service plan. And the website is, you can see that, Func demo. Same thing you can see when we deploy the web app. When it says the form, server forms, you see that the plan, app service plan, and this in the operation details, you see that it is the website name. So that means, again, come from IIS. We create a website, we create a folder, we map it, we deploy that binaries. Rest everything is our responsibility in infrastructure as a service. When it comes to PaaS, they're telling that, hey, I'm going to give you some compute unit that you will know when you go to the app service plan. Inside that app service plan, it says that what is the compute unit? We saw that Azure compute units or the GB, but we took shared where we don't have much information. But if we would have taken either the standard or the premium or some other version, we would have had a better visibility on what is the compute power we are getting. But keeping that aside, the compute power and the website creation is common in both. Now, when we come to the Azure functions, when it comes to the Azure functions, you see that apart from the storage, why storage is needed, we'll come and we'll do a deep dive into that, but not today, in next workshop. But what is very common is the app service plan is there in platform as a service as well as in the function as a service. But here you don't know what is the compute power because we have taken it as a serverless model. If you have taken the function premium or the app service, again, it goes like a fixed budget. Here you pay based on the consumption and the website. You can see that website where what is this website? So that means there is some website. Again, there is some machine, there is some compute power, blah, blah, blah. All these things are happening. So let's do a little bit deeper dive into that. So let's come to this web API. And it says the plan name shared, what kind of operating system. And if we come to this scale up or scale out, scale up. Please come to the scale up, where it clearly says that what is this plan. It's shared plan and 1 GB of RAM, 240 minutes. I mean, if you would have taken this one, then it would have been more better. It says that what is Azure compute unit it gives and other things, but at least you know that there is some compute power involved. But we don't have access to the virtual machine or the machine where it is getting hosted, but it guarantees this much of compute power. Now again, coming to the web app, it's the same plan we have taken. And you know that that's a plan, and you know that how many apps are being hosted. That's a different story. We did the deal. Now let's come to the app service plan. This web forms, we saw that server forms. I'm sorry, server forms. One key thing to observe is here it is Y1. OK, now when we go to these plans, and go to scale up, you see F1, D1, B1. These are basics and starts with S standard series and premium series and isolated series. That's, I think it's not available for me at this point of time because I don't have the ASC environment. But when it comes to this one, it's dynamic. It's called Y1 app service plan. Let's select that. It doesn't. See that? Over here, Y1 app service plan is dynamic. A function consumption plan. OK, in the server forms. So these are like a fixed price. You will pay something, and this is dynamic. So that is the reason you don't even know that what is the compute power, but it guarantees that it will take care of scaling out and shrinking. That's very, very important. You see that. And here you see this, you can't do any this scale up and these things, which we can do when we have selected the app service plan. Now you selected shared. Now you want to go to basic. You're paying 600 or 700 rupees. Now you have a budget. You can pay 4,000. So you bump your app service to B1. And now you have more budget. You can go to standard, pay 5,000 rupees. And you have more, you can go 10,000, 20,000 based on your budget and the business requirement, you bump it up. But this one is dynamic, the consumption plan. And the key thing is this is an Azure function. It's there. OK, and here there's nothing in here. And coming back to the storage account, which is backed to this one. So inside this storage account, in this containers, so you can go to this file here. You see that? Site and dev root. Now you compare all these three. OK, now why does it need storage? So that means it's mapping. This file share is what? It's a drive, isn't it? You hook it up, you mount it on your machine. Now there is a file share and there is a folder And that folder has got site. See this. Now let's go back to this guy. And I'll bring in this one. So that's the final touch. Let's take this web API. Let's take this one. Now compare. Come back to this one. Now your IIS. And inside this IIS, you have inetpub dub root. I told, isn't it? In 2004, 5, 6, 8, and around those times, we used to create sites in D drive. In D drive, we used to create sites and we used to create folders. Now I'm using dub root to make simple. OK, now assume we'll take one example. Now we have site here in IIS, and that site is being mapped to a physical folder in inetpub dub root books API. That's infrastructure as a code where everything is getting deployed. And you know that what is the compute power you have because you have selected a D1 series or whatever the series of virtual machine. Now you know that you have full control on this. If the port is not working, it will be your responsibility to go and select the port. Yeah. Isn't it? If I go and I source, see that straight. Okay. Guys, someone has unmuted his phone. So you have full responsibility on this one. Now, next, let's come back to the PaaS. When it comes to the PaaS, you see that C home site. So imagine a similar thing of this one, right? And dub root, inside the dub root, you have all these binaries. So each of this app service is getting deployed here. And before that, I will type this host name also. So you can see this, it is getting deployed on some machine, virtual machine, physical machine, container. I don't know, but there is some machine, there is some compute power which has been allocated to that. And within the dub root, everything is getting hosted. The only difference is I've created a folder there, but technically if I move that to a D drive websites and the folder, that folder itself will be treated as a dub root. Here it is coming in the dub root. This is the PaaS version. And now coming to the function as a service version, even we don't have the clarity what is the compute power because we took the serverless consumption. So serverless consumption is as and when the messaging is coming. That's one of the examples. There could be multiple use cases. One of the example is as and when the messaging is coming, it will take care of the expansion and contraction, expansion and shrinking of the number of instances. But when it comes to this, you can go back and do a DIR. You're seeing the same set at all places. Here you see this in inetpub. You have logs and some other things are there. And when it comes to PaaS, you're seeing a similar set of things with dub root. When it comes to function as a service, you're seeing a similar set. You have data, you have log files, you have site, and you have dub root. You can see this. You go here. But we didn't deploy anything. Once we deploy, we might see things much cleaner. And see the responsibility. Now comes to the responsibility. Now, when it is infrastructure as a service, now we need to decide where should be the physical folder, how are we going to deploy, and what should be the site name, what should be the binding of IP address. You should go and open that in the advanced firewall settings, as well as in the inbound rules, and deploy it. Rest of the things we will put it. So it is our headache to take care of everything, like the site creation, then the port mapping, and the deployment, and ensuring that none other ports has been open. Everything is our responsibility. When it comes to the PaaS, we know that some hardware has been compute power. I don't want to say hardware, but some compute power has been given. And we are not going to worry about the version of the operating system or any upgrades or punching the holes in the firewall. Everything is there, right? So the similar setup is there. When we do a host name, it is giving the name. That means there is some machine, some compute power, and you see similar, you're getting logs and diagnostic settings deploys, but little bit different folder structure and different, some differences. But here we are majorly worrying only about increasing the compute power or decreasing the compute power and code, nothing else. We're not worrying about anything else. And one thing I forgot to mention it. When we initially created this web API, we were not able to access. When we get into the logs, it clearly says that this particular IP is unable to talk to the database. Where do you get that IP? This is what I wanted to show you. In between, there was 1 minute I was blank, isn't it? I said that I want to show you something. It's very important, is this one. So when you go to the properties, this is where it shows you the outbound IP. When you come to the SQL Server, what was the IP which we opened? It was 20.119.16.11. 20.119.16.11. This is what I became blank, I don't know, for some reason, but I wanted to give you this very critical and important information. So when you want to do some kind of integration and you want to whitelist something, you go to properties. This is where you see the outbound IPs. This is what I wanted to give you this information. OK, coming back to our story, this piece we are clear. And when it comes to function as a service, here we don't even serverless model. And again, you have function premium as well as the app service one, which I'm not considering. Purely function, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, function as a service. Now, when it is a platform as a service, all we were worrying about the compute power. We're not worrying about the hardware. We are saying compute power, Azure compute unit. Are we getting 1 GB RAM or 3.5 GB RAM or n GB RAM? Here, let's take one quick minute. This is very critical to understand the that particular difference. When we come into this app service plan, when you go to the scale up, all we are seeing is whether it is a 1 GB or 1.5 GB or whatever the number of GB, 14 GB, like here you're paying 60,000 plus rupees, you're getting 32 GB. So you know, that's in virtual machine, it is available. Here it is. Definitely you will get that much of compute power, but in app service, platform as a service, we are worrying about what should be our compute power. We are worrying only about the code. We don't know. We're not worrying about anything else, which firewall to open, nothing. We are worrying only about the code and what should be the compute power. Now coming to the function as service, we are not even worrying about the compute power, right? We don't know because dynamic. Y1. The app service plan itself is dynamic. It's Y1. It guarantees the classic example. Maybe I know only that example. Like you're dropping a message, 2 messages, it gets processed. Because here what is happening is we didn't discuss about the scaling up and scaling out. Here, if you see that, if you want to scale at this point of time, because we didn't take a proper app service plan, if not, it shows the scaling. If more load is coming, we need to scale. It should be auto scale. It does manual scaling doesn't work in in web apps or web APIs. It should be auto scale. So here it will be our duty to scale it. So that means you have to take an extra bigger computing power or app service plan where you can configure the rules to expand and shrink. We'll see in our lab, future lab, but we can do that one. But when it comes to the function as a service, we are not even worrying about the compute power, right? And only the code. You're not worrying about anything else in this world, only your code, what is getting deployed on this Azure function. And you drop two messages, it will be the function app's responsibility to scale it, process two instances, and then shrink it. And if you drop 10 messages, it might scale 5 and it process those 10 messages and shrink it back to 1. I'm giving you a hypothetical scenario. Maybe you drop 1,000 messages, it might expand to 50 or 100 instances of this function code, processes everything, and then shrink it back to 1. So that's the thing. This is foundation. Now we are eligible to go and do our labs. So I thought this is very, very important for us to understand the nitty-gritties and behind the scenes, under the hoods, what is happening. Without that, we will not be able to understand, even though we take 1 hour time to do the Microsoft labs. We don't know what is happening under the hoods, but I thought I have to give you the foundational blocks. I did my level best. Hope this foundational block is helpful to you people. And whatever the 3 labs which we thought of to do, we will do it in workshop 2. Please give yes or no that today's foundational blocks were helpful. Even if it is not, please feel free to say no. I'm not going to shout at you. Okay, workshop, that's there. That's when is the next workshop? Let me show you that. Next, the workshop is on 22nd October. Okay, so we'll have more till this year and we'll do this workshops and do a deep dives into that. And okay, so I'm here to increase number of sessions. Hope you people will be joining it. So you can unmute and you can speak. We have 4 minutes time. Rashmita, I will sync up with you to reshuffle the topics. Naeem, thanks Naeem, Kanishka, Harika, Pramod, Nathan, Vineet. Thanks. So do you have anything to discuss, Iqbal?
Hi, I have a question around the function app, if you don't mind. That's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's in the chat. So we basically have Azure Function app, which all has to be hosted privately in the organization, and I think.
Can you speak a little bit louder? Is it with me or with others also? I'm not able to hear you that clear.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you can hear me better now?
Yes, a little bit better. Please go ahead.
So as a design, we've determined that we want to go with Azure Function apps, and deploy them within private endpoints. So we need to go with the premium plan. But I believe our infrastructure team have maybe misconfigured it and gone with app services. So I just wanted to clarify, is there a difference, like what is the big difference between using one versus the other? And if that's not part of this, that's okay. I can go do that separately.
No, I mean, we can discuss that because see this. You see, I generally don't come with any slides because I use Microsoft's or any documentation. If I'm speaking on Azure, Angular, I'll take their documentation.
Thank
Azure
you.
Function app plans. Okay, so because that will be a little bit deeper discussion. We can have one-on-one, but at least at a high level, we can go and we can speak here. Okay, so the thing is, people choose this consumption plan when something is on triggered base, like someone created a file on a blob and you need to act on that. Rest of the time, the function will sit idle. Assume that throughout the day, you will create 50,000 files. So our function should hit that 50,000 times. Rest of the time it is free. And if you see that the execution time is per grant, free grant, you're not even paying anything. It's 400,000 GB and 1 million executions. And anything over and above, it's 0.2. And when it comes to the premium, so see the vCPUs. And again, we need to know the compute, what it is, and the memory duration. And here, if you come to the app service plans, you definitely know that whether you're getting 3.5 GB or 7 GB or 4 or 32 GB RAM.
So that does sound like it doesn't scale automatically though on the app services plan. That's what I'm kind of getting out of this.
What is that? I'm sorry?
That the app services plan likely doesn't auto scale, but maybe the premium plan does.
It does.
Oh,
it does
okay.
auto scale.
It will. Because as I was mentioned, I think I will show that again. Just give me a minute. When we go to scale up over here, if you choose this one, it says that manual scale up to 3 instance. That's the basic one. When it goes to production, they are allowing up to 10 instances subject to availability, and that to auto scale, not manual. And if you go to the premium version, these guys are allowing up to 20 instances.
Okay, and that's within the app services plan. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Because you know, I try my level best to answer, because even I'm a learner. I told you, isn't it? I'm a learner. Every day I learn something. You know, Naeem, I have a question. Yeah, Naeem, go ahead. You can unmute and speak.
If later, if we need to connect you just for the some many doubt clearance, where we can reach to you, like how we can, like is any LinkedIn or somewhere?
I'm there here. I think Rashmita has when this is my. I mean, LinkedIn. I'm not that active. Yeah. This is the profile. Because, you know, the people who ping me over here and they'll ask, so I answer them here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where you can ping me, because, you know, I mean, the only thing is when someone types a message, I'll get a lot of emails on this one. But apart from that, you know, people, they ask queries here, I just answer, but you can ping me. I seem to have dropped off. the video by mistake. Okay. Naeem, am I pronouncing your name properly? Okay. You can unmute and speak. Beneath, you can also unmute and you can speak. We can spend 5 to 10 minutes.
Viswanatha, I do not have any question. I was just answering on Pramod's question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beneath. You can call me Swamy. I mean, rest of the world calls me Swamy. So
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Naeem. Okay, thanks, Beneath. Naeem, you can unmute and you can speak. Okay, Kanishka or Harika, Ramesh Babu. Mail test 10. Oh. Akash. Amul MGR. Ashwin Natraj. Ashwin Kumar Pradhan. Kishore. Harika. Harish. Iqbal. Kanishka. Santosh Kumar or Kumar Santosh, I don't know, but Naeem, Ramesh Babu Bhupati, Romil, Umesh Chaudhary. Anyone else got anything we can discuss? Else, whatever the 3 planned labs, which I thought of to do it today, we will definitely do in the next workshop. Hope this workshop was helpful because I just wanted to give these fundamentals before starting those 12 labs. Because without this foundational blocks, we spend 1 hour time or 30 minutes time, go and do a click and deploy, and we dust our hands and say that, okay, done, we did it. But how are you feeling? I just wanted your pulse. How are you feeling knowing these internals and what is happening behind the hoods and some of the debugging techniques? And I mean, even if you have neutral, please unmute and speak, or you can type any feedback also, positive or negative, because that will really help me. Because in every session I ask this, please give me feedback. I mean, even if it is negative feedback, I don't mind, because that will help me prepare a better content. I'm calling names also. I mean, the mix. I mean, how are you feeling about the content which we discussed today? The internals and the debugging techniques and the foundational blocks. Ashwin Natraj, Ashwin Kumar Pradhan, Amul, Akash, Bineet, Kishore, Harish, Iqbal, Kanishka, Santosh, Naeem, Ramesh Babu,
Really, it
Lomel,
was a great
Umesh.
session because I feel like sometime when we do the project work, we miss this small thing and we just make it work somehow. But when the issue comes, we struggle a lot. So it's good to know this basic things, I feel.
But these internals, I mean, it takes a lot of time to investigate if you don't have these kind of tips and tricks. Ramesh, yes, I mean, are you from the Java background? You can unmute and speak, Ramesh.
Yeah, actually, it was a good session. This is Ramesh. No, I am actually from Microsoft Stack guy.
Technologies. Okay.
Yeah, technology-wise, Microsoft C#, all those stuff. But ASP.NET, it was pretty long time, maybe 5 years, 6 years back. I used to work. So yeah, that's why I was asking whether I should refresh.
No. Because see this, all the samples are fully baked, so you can go and understand it.
Okay.
Should be good enough. And you know, we'll go and do a deep dive as much as possible. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Vineet. I mean, the people like you know, also learning 1 or 2 new points, it makes me very happy.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Hi, Swamy. This is Murli. Kanishka
Yeah,
Shah is
Murli.
my daughter. Yeah. Kanishka Shah is my daughter name.
Ah, oh, okay. Hey, Murli.
Yeah, actually, I'm new to the Azure learning. This is very helpful to me. It is really a wonderful practical session. I really enjoyed that session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really love. I mean, even if someone gives a negative feedback, also I really love that. And I told, isn't it? I did one 8 hours workshop in
Okay.
2019 or 2020. I think in 2020. I repeated the same thing. I told that I do mistakes and then I'll correct it so that we'll learn those hard things and we'll remember for rest of the life. And I asked for the feedback. One guy wrote it that author was not well prepared. There was a lot of mistakes in his code. I said so, but I still like to do the same mode, Murli, because only when you do mistakes you will learn,
Yeah, sure.
isn't it?
Yes.
Because if directly I create this and add the connection string, would have been much faster. But I wanted to keep it to know that to get into the event viewers, to hunt it down. That is very important skill set where you spend days together to find out a very simple thing.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think Naeem and Iqbal, they are. I think Naeem had some question, but for some reason is unable to unmute and speak, or is it a internet blip? Okay, Ramesh spoke. Romil, anything from you?
Yeah, so this was a great session because I am also by myself, I'm learning the Azure, and as you give lots of in-depth knowledge, like a debugging session that I was not aware about that. So that is helpful.
Thanks, Romil. Umesh Chaudhary.
Yeah, it's good actually. Almost small thing, I get it very nicely and clearly.
Cool. I mean, I thought this is much needed session, Umesh, because without these fundamentals, I didn't feel like directly jumping into the labs and completing it. Let's do it. One more episode, one more 3 hours of work. Okay. Romil is done. Mahesh, Babu, Romil, Umesh Chaudhary, Naeem, you're pending. Kumar Santosh, you spoke couple of times, and Murli, you spoke. Iqbal, you didn't speak. Harish C. Kishore, Vineet, you spoke. Ashwin Natraj, he didn't speak. Akash and Amul, manager, you didn't speak. Okay.
One more thing. I'm just going through the YouTube channel of Reactor. I could not find your video because sometimes I just want to go through again as a revise kind of thing if I miss something.
I will show you right now how to locate that. So you go to.
Swami, I've already shared the playlist in the chat section.
Oh,
So,
you shared it?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So probably, you can just pick it up from the chat section, the playlist.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I mean, she already posted it, but this is how I search. I go to Microsoft Reactor and type AZ-104. So that shows this 21 videos here.
Okay, I was going to video and then scrolling down. Okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah. So I mean, Rashmita, she already did that, but just like a benefit of doubt. Not benefit of doubt, I'm sorry. I'm posting it. It's a redundant thing, I'm sorry, but she already posted it. Cool then, Harish C. I think others don't have any queries or they don't want to speak to me. In either case, we can close today and see you guys in 22nd October. That will be definitely 3 labs plus. I'll see. I promised someone that I will bring them Java Spring Boot web service. I'm working on it. If possible, we'll make it on 27th October, where we are doing the lab for app service. I'm almost done with. I had to learn, isn't it? I did Java back in 1999. 1999, 2000, almost 23 years ago. So I have to dust myself to create that Spring Boot web service. It's almost done. So I will try my level best to get it on the next session. Chalo then. Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy your weekend. Anything else? Last.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamy and Rashmika, for the wonderful session. Thank you.